Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at ARWEAVE. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so we don't have a lot of price history here. We only have price history from May 2021. And because of that reason and the fact we've taken this low, we need to be open to a few different interpretations here where we could still see continuation to the downside. So the main way that I'm looking for this is that if we look at our higher time frame counts here, is that we could be looking at this as a potential W, X, and a Y, in which case what we would then be saying here is that internally what we could have done is actually completed this A wave either into this point if we want to take this as a 3-wave move, or if we want to look at this as a 5-wave move, potentially we could be looking to complete into this point. And what I'd be looking for here is the potential to see a move up into this B wave location. Now this would be between this 667 to this 888. Now if we do see this move up in this way, the most likely way that it would look to actually play out would actually be as a bigger flat correction, in which case what we'd be saying here is that internally here we're looking at this as 3 waves up, 3 waves down, and then looking for this as a potential C wave. Now there is other ways of counting this move which we're going to go over, which could be more bearish. And what we'd be looking for within this idea is that we're actually looking for a 5-wave structure to the upside, looking to push us up into the 724 to this 623 zone. Now, if we are looking at something like this, what we'd then be saying is that moving in here, we'd be looking for the potential of a breakout from this point. Now, within this idea of the breakout, what we'd be saying is that for as long as we hold this low here of this 382, we could potentially be looking for a bigger 5-wave move here. Now, we have come down into our golden pocket area already, and we have had a little bit of a reaction. If we do look to push down a little bit deeper here, I am going to be looking out for the possibility of a move towards the 786 to the 0854. If we continue to hold this level, then this count stays alive, and we'd be potentially looking then for this 3rd wave to the upside. If we want to argue that this move has already completed into this low here of this 405, first off, we don't want to cross this low again, and we want to start to see 5-wave structure developing to the upside. Within this idea, what we'd be saying is that we'd be looking at this as 1, 2, and then we're looking for this as a 3rd wave to the upside at this 578, given our current low. If we do move down a little bit lower here towards this 1-to-1 level, this would then put this towards this 562. So going to be keeping an eye on these levels to see if we do continue to see some price action to the upside here and potentially see a little bit of a breakout. If we do, then it's going to be interesting to see if we develop another 5-wave move to the upside. If we do, then it's going to be key that we maintain the low, looking for 3 waves down and then seeing that continuation. But it's still early days on this. There is potential that we could still see even this move become a corrective move in the middle here, where we could potentially complete this as A, B, and C, and still see another leg down, still looking to maintain this level. But like I said, if we lose this low of this $3.82, effectively this would invalidate this count. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for this possibility of a breakout. If we do see a 5-wave move like this play out to the upside, we can see that this would look to sweep this zone of the 629 if this goes towards these highs. And then potentially, if this does look to extend out a little bit, this could also align with pushing up a little bit higher towards this 1382 or this 1618. We can see that this higher range of this 5th wave target box aligns quite nicely with this 623. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this if we do start to see a bit of a breakout to the upside. Now, within this idea here of this being a bigger A, B, and a C to the downside, it is also possible we could argue that this B wave is completed here. Now, if this B wave is completed here, we could be looking for a direct break to the downside, in which case what we would need to be on the lookout for as long as we remain below the 624, is the possibility that this whole move here could be counted as 1, looking for a wave 2 now to the upside, and then seeing another push down in a bigger wave 3. Now, within this idea here, what we'd then be saying is that potentially, instead of this becoming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside, we could see this just develop as a bigger A, B, and a C, where we could look to target out this zone of the 786 to this 50%. Now, given this current low that we have now, what we'd be saying is our 1-to-1 is towards this 505, which would align quite nicely with coming back into some of these areas. If this does look to push up a little bit higher here, 515 is going to be that 0.618, which I'm going to be keeping an eye on to the upside here. So you need to just be on the lookout here. We do have that possibility of a bounce, but it is also possible that we could see this wave 2 just be very shallow as well, and then see this breakdown, though this does look like a 5-wave move here. So it would be more likely that, you know, if we're going to get something like this, we're going to get a bit more of a substantial bounce to the upside here, and then see that continuation down. So that would be looking for this continuation to the downside here. Now, if we want to look at this move from further back here and say, well, what if this is actually a 5-wave move? So if this is a 5-wave move to the downside, the way we'd have to look at this is that this is 1, 2, 3 into this low. This whole move here becomes a 4th wave. And then we're looking for this 5th wave to the downside. Now, within this idea, effectively, we've come down into the target area already, which is this 513 to this 375. Now, because we've come into this level here and we do have a potential 5-wave move to the upside here, we need to just be on the lookout that if we do form 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to the upside, so that would be looking at this potential breakout idea here. What we then need to see is if we hold support above this low, we could actually continue to rally here, either in an ABC or potentially a bigger 5-wave structure. So going to be keeping an eye on this moving forward. If we do continue to hold this low here, which is sitting at this 382, we could potentially see this look to rally in a bigger way. So within that idea of this being a 5th wave to the downside, what we'd then be saying here is that this move is potentially looking to complete or could be completed. Now, within this idea of being within the 5th wave here, what we'd be saying is that this is wave 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that would be our 3rd wave low. And then we're looking at this potentially as a 4th and a 5th. Now, like I said, we have come down into this typical area that we look for as a potential completion point. And we have just touched on this internal target of this 4th wave. It is possible here. We could argue this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to get a 5th wave down for as long as we don't actually cross this level here of this 511. We could potentially still look for one more drop. If we do see another drop here, I'm going to be looking out for this potential of this 365 to this 336 as being a zone we could be looking to push down into. If this is actually our 3rd wave low over here, and we're looking at this as ABC, once again, we could be looking for, one more drop to the downside, depending on how high this pushes. I would be then looking for an interaction again with this 476 level if we are looking at having an additional 4th and a 5th here. But we also need to respect the fact that it is possible that this could already be completed. And if that does happen, like I said, we could potentially be looking at this move starting to rally to the upside. We do also have to, however, be careful here, because if we want to be looking at the most bearish scenario here, we were looking at this actually extending. What we could actually have formed here is that this could be 1, 2. We have another 1, 2 here. And then we could potentially be forming another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would then basically just extend this whole move to the downside here, making this a bigger extension potentially within the 5th wave here, and would mean that we're going to see substantial pushes to the downside. Now, some key areas that I'm looking out for here is this level of this 297. If we start to lose this 297 level, then potentially we could be looking at this extending. If we do see this move through this 297, I will be looking at the possibility of having the yellow 3rd wave complete towards this 145 level. Now, internally here, what we'd be saying is, like I said, this is 1, 2. The 1.618 with this would be this 160. So that's why I'm looking for this possibility of an extension. Now, as long as we stay below the 625, we could continue to see price looking to fall off here in the white count. Once again, same idea here. 562 to 488 is going to be our potential rejection area here, and within this we'd be looking at this as ABC and then possibly looking for this 3rd wave down. So it's going to be very key if we want to see invalidation of this additional extension to the downside. We need to start pushing back above this 625. Going to be very cautious in this 786 to this 50% level, but if we start to get a sustained break above this 786, we could potentially be looking for that possibility of a rally to the upside. So all eyes are going to be on this lower degree move here. If we do continue to hold that low and we look to push up in another 3 waves, where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then it's going to be key what happens. 3 waves down, potentially looking to rally. 5 waves down, then potentially we are going to be looking at that 5th wave target lower down. Having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we are currently above our daily lines here between this 413 and this 411. These lines can potentially be support for us now. We have pushed up past our R1 line and we are sort of moving towards this R2 line. Other targets for today to the upside will be 226 and 229 if we start to break above this R2 line at this 420. If, however, we start to get rejection here and we start to break down, I'm going to be watching these levels of this 410, 405, 401 and this 396 as potential targets for today to the downside. Now we can always blast through these, so we need to just be aware of that. If we start to get impulses, we can move through these zones. Now looking at our weekly CPR lines here, what we can see is that we're actually coming into the central line here at this 420. If we do look to push above this line, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this 427, which could align with coming back into this little support and resistance area here, where we could look to find resistance. If we do continue to hold support of the previous lows, we could still look to potentially rally this week towards 435, 463 and this level here of this 477, which would align with coming back up and sweeping this high. If however we start to reject from these central lines here and we look to push down, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this 393 as a potential target area. As well as that, we do have other targets here to the downside, 378 and this 351 for this week. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those zones if we do look to lose those central lines. Moving over to the monthly CPR lines here, what we can see is that we are currently underneath our central lines. We do have potential to find resistance here at this 433, which would align with coming back into that support resistance level. So going to be keeping an eye on that. Other resistance zones could be 456 and this 477. If we do reject off any of these areas, I'm going to be looking out for that potential of a drop down towards 354. 297, and we do have this lower target of this 194 for this month, so we can potentially look to move down to some of these levels, but we don't have a lot of time left within this month as well, so we need to just be aware of that. If we do start to see price moving back above these central lines, I'm going to be watching this level here of this 515. Other targets for this month to the upside would be 618 and this 675 zone. It's going to be keeping an eye on those if we do see price looking to push to the upside. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you will find a link to the Discord. Come check it out. It is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.